Education sector is always interesting, and joining us now to talk about a new form of education in South Africa, that's Pioneer Academies, and he's the founder and CEO, Chinezi Chijioke. Chinezi, welcome to you. Pioneer Academies in itself, it's not a name that tells me very much, so what is this?
Good morning, David. Thanks for having me here. Our goal in starting Pioneer Academies has been to expand access to really excellent schooling, and I think for us that has three parts. I think the first is a really focus on what is excellence and how do you provide an education that prepares young people not just to get into university, which is the dominant focus of the last 2 years of most schools, which is taking the matric exam, but actually prepares young people to be successful once they're in university and beyond. And we live in a country here in South Africa where the majority of students who get into university don't make their way through it, aren't successful there. And I think we've really got to, if you're talking about excellence, you've really got to focus on how you prepare young people to be successful once they're there.
Yeah, I think the point has been made that it's supposed to be a ticket, and it is a ticket in the sense that you can get admitted to university, but the universities have said a lot of the people coming in are just not ready in various ways, socially, linguistically, but also in terms of the hard nuts and bolts of their subjects.
Well, I think we believe there are three parts of student success that we've really got to cultivate, and it's got to be holistic. It cannot be just test prep and knowledge and sort of how do I perform on my matric in November, right? And the three parts for us are, one is academic excellence. We think that's important, but what we think is more important than sort of the knowledge and the skills of executing an equation are the ability to use that information to solve problems. And I think that's if you're going to be relevant and able to create and lead in the world, not frankly today, but even more so in the future, then you've got to be able to solve problems.
How to think.
How to think, absolutely. How to think and how to use what you've got, what you know, to encounter unfamiliar situations, right? The second part is leadership and service and how to work with others to turn those good ideas into solutions and into results and into impact. And I think that has to do with, that could be leadership, it could be influence, it could be followership. And for us, that puts a big emphasis on our leadership programs, on our community service programs, and our entrepreneurship programs. And then the third thing, and this I think is a large part of the beyond academic reasons for success or not in university, is what we call personal mastery. And that is a focus on developing the self-awareness, perseverance, very important perseverance, and integrity to be able to be successful for self and others. And if you can do those three things, the academic excellence, the leadership and service, and the personal mastery, then as a young person, I think you'll do pretty well once you get into university and beyond.
All right, I'm going to ask you in a moment how that would differ, say, from some of the good schools we've got already.
Sure.
But what is the model for this? How many kids? How many schools? What kind of buildings? Where?
Sure. So the second part of our goals that I mentioned was making this accessible. So we spent a lot of time, and the bulk of our focus and effort and research and work with other great schools in South Africa and across the world has been on developing the teaching and learning, the excellence part of it. But the other part of it is the accessibility part of it, and that's very important to us and to the families we speak with as well. And that is affordability. Our schools range in fees anywhere from 2,000 to 3,500 Rand a month.
Well, that's really at the low end of the lower end of the private school sector.
Yeah, of the private school sector, it is. Sort of anything, there is, the traditional private school is 80,000 plus, and there are a set of other schools now sort of in the 60 and the 50,000 per year, and there's this huge dearth of options for families who are super stretched to get there. And there also, and frankly, for a lot of families who pay 60 to 80,000, all that glitters is in gold. And so there's certainly a need to provide options.
So
for families
how are you going to be able to offer this? Who's paying? Who's helping you?
Fair question. So we've got investors, a small set of private investors who are very thankful to have and who have a long-term view on education. You don't invest in schooling to turn a quick profit. That would, on one hand, compromise education too much, and secondly, schools don't operate that way. I think you need to have a 5 to 10 year horizon at least to think about building a healthy school, and so we're very blessed to have a set of private investors.
What sort of money in total are we talking about? Presumably you can't mention them, or they
Sure.
don't. But what kind of money are we talking, and where is this now? Is it still an idea? Have you got a building? Have you hired people?
Yes, no, good question. Now, the school opens our first school will open in Monday in January 2015. We open for enrollment, so we've got families enrolling already, and so then from thereafter we intend to grow the network, and so the second school would open in 2016. Thereafter, we've got a team put together. We're actually we're taking our time really making sure we got the right people from a faculty standpoint, and so we started that process, and we're appointing a head of school at the end of this month, and we're very excited to introduce that person to the community in Ormonde and in south of Joburg.
When you get the school going,
Yes.
How's it going to be different? If I walk in there, will I see things that are not the same as your good private and public schools that we have already?
I think there are two things in particular that will really make make the Pioneer Academies distinctive, and anyone walking in, be a student or a parent or yourself, if you come visit us, will notice. The first is how our students learn. I mentioned earlier the real focus on problem solving. And so in every lesson, in every sort of module, in every subject, we have what we call try before teach, or try first cycle. So we insist that students work to try to solve unfamiliar problems before we ever teach. If we think back to our schooling days, the traditional model is a teacher comes in, and I recall from when I used to be a teacher, I would teach, I would introduce a topic, I'd say try to go home for homework and let's discuss it tomorrow. We've got to change that order and get students trying to solve problems they're unfamiliar with first. So that's the first thing that's different, is you'll see a lot more student-driven work around problem solving. The second is the way we teach, right? And in a traditional classroom, you'd have one teacher, 15, 20, 25 students, whatever the number is. We have a team teaching model where we have a team of 3 to 5 teachers responsible collectively for a grade or for a subject. And that has a ton of benefits. It creates for every student access to sort of a village. It takes a village to raise a child. Every student has access to a team as opposed to a single teacher, and it also it creates an environment in which teachers can work together to really study how are our students doing and improve instruction.
Presumably, you have to teach the teachers. And whose concept that you're talking about? Is this your idea that you've developed? Is it your mission?
Sure. Yeah, well, we've got a wonderful small team who are working together on it, and we've got wonderful advisors as well. For me, it's been. I mean, I had started sort of a vision for me for a number of years.
I mean, is this your baby?
Sure, but it's my baby, but it's not mine alone. Perhaps that's the way to say it.
Yeah.
I think there are a team of experienced educators, along with myself, who are really working on this. And so I think that's it's hard to claim it personally. I think.
Where will you be, and how do people get in touch?
Sure. We'll be on Monday, as I mentioned. Encourage anyone who's interested to find out more, particularly parents and families who'd like to get to know us.
Is it called the Pioneer Academy?
It's called Pioneer Academies. And the website is pioneeracademies.co.za. It's the easiest way to get in touch with us, or on Facebook as well.
We got it on the screen over there.
Wonderful.
Well, that's very interesting. And as always with these things, we haven't got enough time. So I think what we will do, when you're open, then you must come back and tell us in a few months how it's gone.
Absolutely.
Which would be interesting to do.